Sculpt Nouveau clear coats. In this video, we're going to go over all of the different types of clear coats that Sculpt Nouveau sells. Now, this is the metal oil that we're going to start with, and you might recognize this video from our grinding and how to blend in the grinding and weld marks with steel. All of these videos will be taken from other videos, so you'll recognize a lot of them if you've frequented our channel. So one of the questions we get a lot is what clear coat or what sealer, what protective coating should you use? And hopefully this video helps clarify things. So the metal oil is kind of like the metal wax where we don't really recommend it for a long-term solution. The metal oil is fantastic for, say, a big giant pause button where you can oil it so it doesn't continue oxidizing it, and it also kind of preps it for a clear coat. So I will do a lot of the metal oil if I plan to do a clear coat later, but I don't want to clear coat it right now because 3 days later I can clear coat it, and that makes it so I can do multiple pieces or panels or whatever you're working on and then clear coat all at the same time. Just wait those 3 days. So the metal oil is pretty strong for just an oil, don't get me wrong, but I don't like to rely on it alone. And that goes for, like I said, the wax as well, but really for steel, because if you put it on oil and leave it as kind of a temporary coating and plan to go back and maintain it, then it's going to be just fine. But if you do it on steel, well, then rust happens if you don't do it soon enough. So here we rubbed it on, now we can spray it on. The oil is really versatile, we can do it a couple different ways, but it's really designed to be rubbed on. So while I am spraying this on, unless you plan on kind of spraying it out and then just waiting long term, I don't think it's a huge benefit to spray. So I think rubbing on is really how the metal oil is meant to be put on. The metal wax, however, is more of a paste. So it's, in your traditional sense, a wax. And a lot of people will put it on with a brush. A lot of people will dab it on and then burnish it in like you would like a traditional car wax. For me, I always put it in this towel and kind of burnish it through. And again, like the metal oil, it's more what I feel is a temporary coating. Wax is meant to be maintained. Just like with our car, right? We maintain that wax by applying more. Here you can see I'm pushing it through the fiber, so I kind of ball it up and then rub it on. So what that does for me is it helps, one, moderate how much I'm putting on, because I'm not over-waxing. Over-waxing can be a problem because it will dry and then it becomes harder to buff out. So I kind of start with these smaller sections and I'm just trying to get a good grip there. But basically I just rub it on in a circle and then I'll burnish it as well. Whether I use a second towel or another part of this towel, I can get away with a lot of that. So it just depends on how hot it is, depends on how much time I have. The hotter it is, the faster it will dry. So that is something to keep in mind. So you can also kind of warm it up a little after the fact and help get a little bit of the ridges out. But I find that being on top of our buffing actually helps a huge amount with the wax. So wax I do a lot of the times over another clear coat. Because once again, if you're working on bronze or copper, aluminum, even if you wanted to, whatever, you can maintain that. And if you don't get to it soon enough, if it's been abraded off or anything, copper and all those oxidize slower. If you're doing this on steel, well, steel rusts. So it's something to keep in mind for sure. So that's why I normally do a clear coat and then I will wax, because it gives me a little bit of kind of room where if I don't maintain the wax like I'm supposed to, my clear coat does its job. The wax takes the grunt of the damage though. So it's exactly why we wax our cars. And that's why I reference it, because everyone understands that principle for the most part. Now, the other thing is the wax actually comes in colors. The oil does as well, but that's more for like overall adding a small tint. The metal wax, I find, works really well if you want to, one, add that little tint, but two, also if you want to add like color in recessed areas. And so that's what I'll do here, is a little bit of both of those. So I do a little bit of the tint and then I actually will pull back so a little bit of that is like lighter than where the recessed areas are. And so that's what the colored wax is really good for. So now we're going to go over the Smart Coat. Our Smart Coat is our one-part water-based system, and it works really well if you are working inside where you can't have a solvent smell, you just want a water-based coating. It is really strong for a one-part. I normally spray it on, but it does have auto levelers, so it will help if you brush it or roll it on. It will help kind of get rid of those application marks. It is something to keep in mind about the application marks moving forward from here. And same with the oil and wax. It should always be a concern. You should always do a test, I should say, rather than a concern. Just know how you're applying it. So spraying usually goes best for the Smart Coat. So here we're going to do the Shields Up. Now, Shields Up is also a water-based system. It only comes in the one sheen, the matte, whereas the Smart Coat comes in matte and satin. And Shields Up has a great auto leveler as well. So you can spray it on, but I didn't want to just show spraying on applications. So here we have brushing on. And I'm just kind of quickly brushing it on, not even doing a really good job, just going to really rely on the auto levelers that are in this to help sort out a lot of this horrible application technique, which is really nice at sometimes. So kind of brush it on and leave it alone, basically. The nice thing about the Shields Up is it is an anti-graffiti coating, so should someone do something unnatural to it, such as tag it, then it does come off pretty easily. So this is the about a day or two later, and you can see I'm just going to go over with this kind of goldy brass Rust-Oleum spray can. And with our graffiti remover, it'll just come right off. I let it dry. Now I'm just pulling it off. I think I let it dry overnight, maybe the next day after that. But you can see it just comes right off. The Shields Up stays intact, so it's really nice to have that option as well. We do have other anti-graffiti coatings as well, so it's important to remember that. Here we're going into our Clear Guard. Our Clear Guard is our one-part solvent-based coating. It's a modified resin, so we call it our lacquer a lot of the times, but this is technically a modified resin, and it's a really strong one-part solvent-based clear coat. Now we do have the EF and the regular. The EF is more for environmentally friendly, so if you're in California, you will receive the EF version. But they're basically the same. There's no longevity difference. They both hold up extremely well. And the EF version is actually easier on the green and blue patinas if you want to help retain that color. So that's an important difference as well. Color Lock is our next one. Color Lock serves one purpose in life: to make colors pop. It will also help keep the heat tone, like if you're doing a rainbow or a torch patina, or just painting with a torch, heating up metal naturally. If you want to help lock in those colors, the Color Lock is your best bet on that. So it's not the most durable coating. Like I said, it has one job in life, and it is to make those things pop. So you can see the solvent dye really make a difference where it's been hit and where it hasn't been. It really makes it look cool. So Color Lock is yours if you need color to pop, if you need the differences in colors to really stand out, or if you need to lock in one of those hot patinas that's more sensitive. That's what its job is to do. I usually go over the top with ClearGuard or Everclear over the top just to add that protective layer, and it just helps really shore that all up together. So HydroClear is one of our new water-based systems, and it is a two-part system, so it's a two-part water-based system. It is phenomenal as far as durability. So we rate this one up there with the Everclear as far as strength. And what's interesting is you could roll it on, spray it on, rub it on even, brush it on. The auto levelers are so good in there that even when I rolled this panel out, I could see all the roll marks, and I came back the next day and it was all gone. It was completely flat. It was really nice to work with. So the HydroClear actually comes in 3 sheens: the matte, the satin, and the gloss. It works as an anti-graffiti coating. It takes a while to dry, so that's the one thing that to keep in mind, is that it does take about 24 hours to dry. But after it dries, that 24 hours, that's its cure time as well. So it cures out a lot faster. So when we go to the Everclear, you'll see the difference. So HydroClear, dry time, we'll call it about 24 hours. It'll usually dry a little bit faster, but cure time is that 24 hours as well. So Everclear is our 2-part solvent-based. This is a polyurethane coating, and it is really strong. So the differences between HydroClear and Everclear: The Hydro Clear is about a 1-day dry time, but it's a 1-day cure time. The Everclear dries much faster because it's a solvent. So we're looking at closer to maybe an hour, maybe a little bit faster, depending on the heat. Dry time. Cure time, however, it does take time to cross-link. So it does take about 5 to 7 days, depending on temperature and everything. It's pretty strong even 24 hours later, but its full cure time is that 5 to 7 days. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. So which clear coat should you use? Well, it really comes down to your application technique you need to use for that specific job, as well as what it is entitled, right? So if this is going inside and it's never going to be touched, maybe you just want to clear guard it and be done with it. A smart coat would also work. You can oil, wax. It really comes down to the particulars of your job. So if you're still confused after this video, don't be alarmed. It's a lot of information. Just give us a call and we'll be happy to help you out and help figure out what works best for you. Sculpt Nouveau clear coats are available at www.sculptnouveau.com or by calling us at 760-432-8242.